So earlier now, we in the previous video we saw the data processor. Now we'll get into the processes. Now these are some of the important processes, like your how to create your RFM segments. Then later on, reinforcement learning and recommendation processes. So let's in this video we'll just talk about the RFM maker process. So as like the other processes, again we have to create a folder called processes. I've already created, so you can also create a folder inside the RL record called processes, and then the first file is the init.py file. Again, this init.py file is a special file which tells the Python compiler that the processes is part of the package, and these are, and also the classes and files which we have to import from here. So there are two lines to this, from .rfm process import rfm maker. So .rfm process is this file, rfm process.py. From that we are importing the rfm maker class. The second is from .selflearn process import rllearn and rlrecommend. So it's this file, this particular file, selflearn.process.py, and we are importing these two classes. We'll see these things, the second line, in the next video, but this video will talk about the RFM maker. So that's about init.py. Now we have to create this file called rfmprocess.py. So just like every other files which we have created, right click and then create new Python file, and then type the name rfmprocess.py. This is specific to, now this particular process is specific to PyCharm. Now if you are using a different ID like Spider or any of those things, or even if you are creating it manually, you will have to create this manually. So you create an editor of your choice and then create it manually. So just create this file called rfmprocess.py. So let me open that file now. Now this file contains all those processes till the creation of the segments, and this file covers everything which we talked about in our post 4, where we talked about the segmentation process that during the prototyping phase. So the first lines 8 to 13 is for importing all the necessary packages. So, and important thing is line 9, we just appending the system path till the RL record. So here, now this path is, you will have to change this according to where your RL record folder is under your RL recommendation. So this is your RL recommendation, inside that RL record which is your virtual environment. So according to the path you have to change this till the RL record or RL recommendation path. And then from utils again you import the helper function. So there are different methods. So the constructor method init.self. So the inputs are the customer details and the conf. So customer details we've seen in the previous data loader how customer details are created. So that customer details and the configuration file. This is the this is the configuration file which we saw, the JSON file which we saw. Let's open that also, this one. Yeah, so that's also a input to this. So we have we are storing that in self.custdetails and self.conf, so that these files are available to all the methods. So there are 1 2 3 4 5 methods, and this is kind of the segmenter method is kind of the calling method. So let's start from here. This segmenter method, so ultimately this is responsible for creating all the segments, but in turn it calls each of the other methods. So let's look at this rfm age train, and this is created, this variable is created using the method self.cluster_creator. Let's look at self.cluster_creator. So this is the cluster creator method. That's I explained earlier, the self is required because to call any method in a class you will have to we have to do the self.cluster_creator. So self.cluster_creator you create it. Let's look at what it is. So the first line, this self.cluster creator is those processes for creating those clusters, k-means clusters, and how those different clusters are created, and then we create the overall score, which we saw in the again in post 4 in your prototyping phase. So it's the same thing which we are implementing here. So again, the first line is line number 75 is RFM age train. So we're calling the RFM matrix process or method. So let's see the RFM method, RFM matrix method. So this is what has been called. So the first line again in this RFM matrix is how to create that data frame in the RFM format. We saw that during the prototyping phase. So as we have seen, this one this uses the lifetimes package and then creates the data into the three variables which we want: the recency, frequency, and monetary values. So that is what is returned, and we have resetting the index, and then this is returned to the calling function, which is this. So we get the data frame in the format of recency, frequency, and monetary according to each of those unique customer IDs. Because customer ID is a unique field which we have defined here. See, customer ID. So again, self.conf customer ID. So this is, we are calling the specific name customer ID from the configuration file. See, customer ID. Now in the raw file, the name is customer underscore ID. So we are using this, or rather in the raw file it is customer.id, and then this customer underscore ID is what we are using here. So we call the customer ID, and then we create the RF in the RFM process. The next one is creating each of those the recency, frequency, and monetary. Creating those cluster. Now we have seen this cluster sorter method also in a prototyping phase. So it's the same method which we are using. So let's look at the self.cluster sorter method. So this is the cluster sorter method. So here again we are getting the we have seen those target field name, RFM. This is the data frame, and whether it's ascending or descending. Please refer to the prototyping phase post 4 for explanation on this. So the first one is about defining this number of clusters, which we found during our initial phases, that there are four clusters. But again, we are defining this as a parameter here. See here, number of clusters is 4. So from here, it is picked number of clusters, and then RFM. Then we need only those the variable which we want, which is your target field name. Here is the recency, because we are doing the recency for the recency. So here you take only the recency from and the customer ID, and then you fit the k-means algorithm and find those clusters, and again you predict how many clusters are for each of those rows, and then we sort those values in ascending order, or ascending or descending order. So here we have said ascending is false, so we are sorting it in the descending order. Why we are ascending in we are not ascending is false. Please refer to the post 4, because that's explained there, the rationale for that. And then we are ordering those clusters in that logical format. Again those process of so again we are calling this function order cluster. Let's look at that order cluster. So this is the function we saw, wherein we are ordering these clusters in a very logical order, in either ascending or descending order. So we have seen this specific function in post 4 also. Please refer the post 4 for details of this. So it's the same thing. So finally we get the final sorted data frame, which is based on the clusters. So where is that? It's here. Okay, it's here. So you get the so you return the first one is about recency. We return that recency data frame, which is sorted to here to this part. Similarly, we use you do the same processes for frequency and monetary, the same type of processes, cluster sort and all these methods we apply, and then get the recency, frequency and monetary. So, and then the next process is about merging these details into the original data frame, which is the RFM age train. So we merge the monetary cluster, frequency cluster, recency cluster, and then calculate the overall score, which is the sum product of all this the cluster values of recency cluster, frequency cluster and monetary value cluster. We have seen again please refer to post 4 in the corresponding videos to know more details about this, because this is a similar thing which we are implementing here. So now this is the cluster creator we have seen. So it returns the data frame which is sorted according to the according to the overall score. You have the overall score and all the clusters which are there. And the next one is about creating the different segments. So in the post 4 we saw how we created the segments, Q1 to Q4. So we clubbed the first two clusters 0 and 1, and then we clubbed 4, 5 and 6 as Q4, and 4, 5 and 6 we have clubbed as Q4, 0 and 1 as Q2. The second cluster number 2 was Q3, and cluster number 3 is Q1, based on the number of customers there are in each of those clusters. So again, please refer post 4 of the series for details of this, the prototyping phase. So now once we have created the segments, then we merge this into the original customer details file, and then we are also, what we are doing is we are also saving this as a pickle file in the self.conf customer details, in this place. So so we have so we are saving this specific folder. What is the self.conf customer details, let's say. So this is where we are storing the details. Okay, so again, specify the file where you want to store the customer details. I would recommend create an output folder here. See, an output folder here, and create those so create an output folder inside the RL reco, and then copy the path, or define the path from here to the RL recommendation folder. Change this path, but whichever you have, and then customer details.pkl is the file you will get, customer details.pkl. So that is, so finally this data is saved into this. So that is what the whole process of RFM maker will do. Now we'll talk about this RL learn and RL recommend in the next video.